Let's get into the action now from Villa Park for the game between Aston Villa and Spurs. And both clubs have trophy cabinets sufficiently full to make even the Joneses envious, but they're only too aware that it's what happens today and tomorrow that'll keep their turnstiles clicking. Your commentator, John Motson.
Peter With, needing one goal for his 100 in league football, returns after suspension, determined to curb his impatience with referees, which has got him booked so often, and hoping to reproduce against Spurs the form he showed last season when he scored 3 times in 4 meetings between the two clubs. Villa lost both matches while With has been out, including the Milk Cup tie at Notts County. An injury to their young right-back Mark Jones in that match means Gary Williams switches to number 2, and Alan Evans has recovered from an ankle injury to slot back in at number 4. Spurs also welcome back an international defender, Chris Hughton at number 3 in place of Gary O'Reilly. He's the first of their 6 injured stars to return, but Glenn Hoddle and Graham Roberts play in the reserves today. Steve Archibald and Steve Perryman hope to play in a friendly on Monday, but Tony Galvin is still some way off full fitness. Indeed, Garth Crooks is Spurs' only ever present this season. He's top scorer with 11 goals, and on his last appearance at Villa Park here in the FA Cup semi-final against Leicester, he took a pass from Ozzy Ardiles and put Spurs on their way to Wembley. Keith Birkinshaw's team have only lost 1 of their last 11 games, a fine testament to his management when you think how many players he's been missing. Referee this afternoon, Clive Thomas of Porthcawl. Mark Falco on the far side as Spurs kick off. He scored twice against Villa last season in the Charity Shield and also got the goal which knocked them out of the FA Cup at White Hart Lane. But on the ball now, it's Paul Miller for Tottenham, who are playing from the right in the white shirts. Gary Williams away from Gary Mabbott, who tackles him. Gary Mabbott playing at Villa Park for the first time in his career. He was saying to me just before the kick-off how much he's looking forward to the atmosphere. Hughton. Falco, Hughton again. In the long English season, players who have a little break, even though it's enforced with injuries, sometimes come back refreshed, and Chris Hughton, the first of the Spurs wounded to return, pushing forward effectively in the attack there. And talking of injuries, Aston Villa's Ken McNaught just feeling the right ankle rather. This is Shaw. Here's Brook. Now Hazard. Mabbott's moved forward into the penalty area. Villa. Goes past Gibson. Hazard. And Falco. Ball took a deflection off Ken McNaught. Corner from Mark Falco's shot. Short to Villa. And now Hazard. Good try! What a great save by Jimmy Rimmer. That was in all the way from this angle. And I think Hazard believes it too. Wonderful response from the Aston Villa goalkeeper. He was off to his left to make a fingertip save. Brooks corner. Falco with the flick. Bremner with the header out. Terrific save from the experienced Jimmy Rimmer. Good length on the kick by Jimmy Rimmer, giving With the chance to compete with Lacey and beat him. Shaw. And With and Cowans. With! Oh, left foot of Ray Clements. As long as you keep them out. Here's Morley. Shaw, Bremner. Tottenham besieged rather there. Shaw, Mortimer. Morley out left. Mortimer hanging on too long. Aston Villa losing their momentum then, having just appeared to discover it in the previous attack. Villa. Well, Peter With beat Lacey in the air, was in the right position to get the return from Shaw, hit a firm shot, and Ray Clements, reacting instinctively, kept it out with his left foot. Mabbott's header. Hazard. There he is again. Brooks. Hazard's got Brooks square, but it's played in for Falco to flick one down. Mabbott's! Good save by Rimmer. And even Mabbott forced to applaud, as indeed the Holt end are doing in unison. Cowans to With. Cowans again. Morley. With is coming in, and Clements wasn't quite sure where he was, hence he had to make the save. Corner to Villa, although the ball might well have carried out anyway, unbeknown to Clements. And McNaught up there with Clements, away by Falco, out to Morley. And half-time gives us a chance to pay a well-deserved compliment to Jimmy Rimmer. Two marvellous saves, one from Hazard going to his left, one from Mabbott going to his right. He's missed only one league match in 5 years at Villa, but how strange that he had the distinction of holding 2 European Cup winners' medals while playing in a final for just 8 minutes. He came off in Villa's match against Bayern Munich, you'll recall, last season, injured, and back in 1968 he was Manchester United's substitute goalkeeper when they beat Benfica in the European Cup final. Quite a career and quite a goalkeeper. At half-time, there's a chance to catch up on scores from other grounds, doubtless listening to BBC Radio Sport on 2. Spurs began the match as joint top scorers in the First Division with 25 goals, although it might be worth making the point that 21 of them had been scored at White Hart Lane. Gary Brook. Taking on Gibson. And Hazard, back to Price. Crooks. And Price coming in. Nice effort that, oh, what a flying header away by Ken McNaught. Mark Falco was the player who would have capitalised had McNaught not intervened from Price's cross. But that was a spectacular and vital piece of defending by the Aston Villa centre-half. Away by Cowans this time. Hazard. Crooks making the run, but McNaught is also there. Here's Falco. Here's Mortimer. With. Mortimer. With. Houghton. Perseverance paid off there for him. McNaught. Brook. And Clive Thomas, a very good decision. Alan Evans definitely knocked Garth Crooks as he came through to get the ball there. One of those that would often have gone unpunished by a lesser referee. And Clive Thomas saw it and gave it. And Ricky Villa puts the free kick over the bar. Little simmering argument has gone on most of the afternoon between two players who Clive Thomas has had in his eye line. He's now angry with Jimmy Rimmer, presumably for dissent. Ken McNaught has come across. Referee Thomas, in my view, absolutely right about the foul by Evans on Crooks. Jimmy Rimmer obviously saying something to the referee, and he was booked. But Crooks and Evans have been having quite a tussle, and it hasn't escaped the referee's notice. With. And now a free kick the other way, which gets a raucous cheer from the Villa Park faithful. Here's Gordon Cowans. Gibson. Was with fouled, penalty. Gary Mabbott's arm was up when he challenged Peter With on the cross. And Villa's going to be booked. Ricky Villa, the Tottenham captain, said something to Clive Thomas and is booked. And Gordon Cowans, who missed one last week at Norwich when he hit the post, tries to make up for that, and does. Despite a fine effort by Ray Clements, who went the right way. But Gordon Cowans has put Aston Villa into the lead after 57 minutes. So Villa take the lead after two interesting refereeing points, in that Clive Thomas was quick to spot the Alan Evans foul at the other end, and then equally quick to see Gary Mabbott infringing in the opposite penalty area. And I, for one, wouldn't argue with either decision. Here's Cowans, and here's Mortimer. And off John Lacey for a corner. So, Evans and McNaught both forward. Well taken. One or two tempers frayed back in the penalty area when Peter With challenged Ray Clements there. Falco. Inside to Crooks. Falco. Deflection and another fine save. Well, Falco always seems to strike against Aston Villa, but Jimmy Rimmer was aware of that and even of the deflection. Hazard again, just waiting for movement. Crooks is in the centre, away by Evans. Brook. Mabbott. Good effort, hit the bar. Rimmer could have got a touch even. Certainly came back off the crossbar from Gary Mabbott. It's not over yet, Brook. And Crooks may have been offside. But Gary Mabbott, who hit the post for England against West Germany with that sort of instinctive shot, was unlucky again today. Oh, good running by Cowans. Number 2! And the man of the match, Gordon Cowans, gets his second. 12 minutes from the end. The Villa fans on the Holt end applaud, and what a move it was. Dennis Mortimer fed the perfect ball through, and Gordon Cowans ran on to beat Clements with so much confidence. And Cowans, who was 24 last Wednesday, has surely reminded Bobby Robson that he's still around. (2-0 to the Villa. Ricky Villiers for Spurs. Brook. Well, there was confidence about that piece of finishing. Peter With on the chase. And Shaw, Gary Shaw, and Tony Morley. 3-0. Spurs are pulled apart now. 2 in a minute for Aston Villa. Peter With made the running down the left. Gary Shaw's shot just flew across the face of the goal, and Tony Morley buried the chance. So Villa, who've had some indifferent league results this season, are now 3 up and looking very healthy indeed. Morley got the third. So 2 goals in a minute would appear to have put the match beyond Tottenham's reach. But here's Crooks. And here's Falco. Gibson's was the challenge. Lacey coming near post. Here's Falco. Here's Hazard. Crooks through the centre, and he beat McNaught, and he couldn't beat Rimmer. And Evans squares up to Crooks, not for the first time. But Crooks there had the ball played through by Mick Hazard beyond the centre half, and still Jimmy Rimmer remained unperturbed. So a good afternoon for Tony Barton's team. Villa manager peering out of the dugout there. Cowans to Shaw. Shaw's cross will find Morley. Morley curls one, and it was Gary Mabbott that put it behind the goal. That was a lovely curling effort from Tony Morley, and if it wasn't going to go in, well, there was a Villa player, Gary Williams, behind Mabbott. With the corner. He fell as he took it. Evans. Back again to Cowans. With offside. Gary Shaw consoled by Ray Clements because the flag was up as With knocked the ball back in where Shaw and McNaught were standing. No goal. So what was a tentative performance earlier by Aston Villa has become quite a convincing one, it would seem. Certainly the Tottenham attackers looked toothless in the second half. But one has to remember again how many players they're still without. Mortimer, surging run, Shaw's on the far side. Shaw! Brilliant goal! A goal which says so much about Aston Villa, and Dennis Mortimer in particular. He harried Mick Hazard in midfield, he won the ball, he got away down the left, Gary Shaw pulled away to the far side, but when Mortimer's cross came in, Shaw was the player that headed it in, firmly into the corner, and with 6 minutes to go, Aston Villa have gone 4-0 up. Crooks to Brook, maybe a chance of a consolation for Spurs. Gary Brook, oh, another good save. Well, Brook saw the gap to Rimmer's left, or to his right from Brook's position, and seemed to have aimed it in the right corner of the goal, and Rimmer saved even that. Tony Barton's worried about the injury, here's Lacey. Crooks is up with Rimmer. It's gone over the bar, but the Villa bench aware that all this has happened while Alan Evans is on his back in the Tottenham penalty area, nursing a leg injury, and they will make possibly a very late substitution with Eamon DC preparing if needed. Tony Barton and Roy McLaren just trying to indicate that Alan Evans should make his way off the field, but knowing the kind of fella he is, he'll want to stay on. John Lacey for Tottenham, sets one up for Hazard perhaps, shot hit McNaught. Price. Falco, down to Villa. And Mabbutt. Hazard. Falco is coming in on the cross and was blocked by Evans, who is playing on in pain. Villa with the corner. Peter With up to prevent Paul Miller reaching it. And Spurs taken apart in the second half by a ruthless, emphatic performance from the European Cup holders. Keith Birkinshaw, I'm sure, admitting, although the first goal was a penalty which Spurs contested, that Tony Barton's team came good with Tony Morley, one of the scorers. He made it 3-0 in fact. The man of the match, possibly the scorer of the first two goals, the Villa number 10, Gordon Cowans, and with him there, scorer of number 4, Gary Shaw. So Villa go into their European tie, I would think, full of confidence, while Tottenham go to Munich hoping to get one or two of their injured players back.
Well, the tide certainly turned in that game with not a little help from Jimmy Rimmer, and you'll be able to admire his special ability later. But for our skill spot, we first take a look at England's bright new star Gary Mabbutt initiating a break which tests him to the full. First of all, it shows his awareness that once the ball comes back to him here, he's not content just to get it under control. He lays that off seemingly to no one, but he'd spotted Mark Falco, who flicks it back to him first time. The next thing we can see is his two-footedness and his ingenuity as he finds that way of getting past Evans. But now a skill from the past, one that Tom Finney used to do so well, shutting off a chasing opponent. He gets across him, he's in playing distance, it's not a foul, but in the end the three players outnumber him. He checks, sees Brook to his right, plays the ball to him, and it's that break that we now see finish in normal speed. The all-round ability of Gary Mabbutt. But it was Villa's day, and a chance to pay tribute to an unusual skill from what we might term an old-fashioned centre-forward, Peter With. But just look at this, as the volley comes up there from Gibson, a little back-heel pass off the sole of the foot there, right in Mortimer's pass. It beat the whole of the defence, but Shaw, who's on the ball now, unfortunately was offside. But the man of the match, really, I thought, was Gordon Cowans. A fragile player in many respects, but not in stamina. He looks fragile, but he's got a lot of strength and he gets around the field. Very, very nimbly indeed, clever dribbling skill there, and very deft passing touch. But it just gives us one more chance to look at Peter With and assess that with that deft header, that there's brains in his head as well as skill in his feet. Well, before we leave that game, just a word about the penalty, and it arose from Gary Mabbott's awareness and determination to get back and out-jump Peter With, who was lurking on the far post. Colin Gibson crosses it, but unfortunately, in his anxiety to get there, Mabbott mistimed the ball and fell all over Peter With. And Clive Thomas, perfectly placed, had a clear view, and that was that. Well, now the match which contains